Good morning everyone. I am Yadav Raksha Vinod from Standard 9th A and my roll number is 51. Today I am going to explain on the topic of law of conservation of momentum. Here I am starting. Law of conservation of momentum. Objective: to learn the law of conservation of momentum. Momentum is defined as the motion of the mass of an object. Because all objects have mass and moving object it also have momentum. The law of conservation of momentum states that the total momentum of two or more objects acting upon one another will not change, provided there are no external forces acting upon them. In other ways, when two objects collide, their total momentum before the collision will be the same as the total momentum after the collision. Let's consider two cars of different masses. A bigger one is m1 and smaller one is m2. Imagine the cars are moving in a same direction but in different velocity u1 and u2 respectively. Because momentum is the product of mass and velocity, the momentum of a bigger car can be expressed as m1 into u1 and the smaller car can be expressed as m2 into u2. To determine the total momentum of both cars would be m1 u1 plus m2 u2. Now let's imagine there are two cars are colliding. During the collision, the bigger car will exert force F1 on the smaller car and the smaller car will exert force F2 on the bigger car. As a result of the collision, as the velocity of the cars will change, so we'll represent those V1 and V2. Force is the product of a mass and acceleration. In an example of the collision of the force of bigger car will be expressed as F1 is equal to m1 into v1 minus u2 upon t, where t shows time. The force of the smaller car during the collision will be expressed as F2 is equal to m2 into v2 minus u2 upon t. According to Newton's third law, each action will have an action that is equal and opposite, meaning the forces can expressed as F1 is equal to minus F2. Because both forces are equal and opposite, can also write them as m1 into v1 minus u1 upon t is equal to m2 into v2 minus u2 upon t. We can cancel t, the common factor of time, in the equation. So we write that m1 into v1 minus u1 is equal to minus m2 into v2 minus u2. The equation can then be simplified. m1 into v1 minus m1 into u2 is equal to minus m2 into v2 plus m2 plus u2. And it can be written as m1 into v1 plus m2 into v2 is equal to m2 into u2 plus m1 plus into v1. From this equation, we can see the total momentum from both cars before and after collision did not change but was conserved, thereby proving that law of conservation of momentum. Summary: the law of conservation of momentum states that the total momentum of two or more objects acting upon each other does not change, provided on no external forces acting upon